and welcome to Universal Heritage Television Nigeria. We are glad to have you again on our Matter of Concern program. This is a program that discusses our socio-economic challenges in the society. Our guest today is Barrister Lawrence Nwaketi. Barrister Nwaketi is an Owerri-based attorney and a former chairman of Nigerian Bar Association, Imo State. Barrister, you are welcome to our program.
Thank you, my brother.
My name is Afam Echi. Please remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, the topic for today is the conflicting court judgment between the Federal High Court and the Supreme Court over the Naira redesign. Barrister Nwaketi will be throwing light on the issue. You remember that the central bank had given a timeline ending February 10th. But some Nigerians are saying that is not enough for the currency swap. And three governors of the ruling party, APC, went to court to obtain a Supreme Court judgment, mandating the CBN to extend the timeline. Now we are going to look at the propriety of such action. Barrister, are you surprised that three governors of the ruling party went against its own government, the APC government, and obtained a judgment against a policy the federal government said is good for Nigerians and designed to turn things around for the better? What are your thoughts about the action?
Anyway, thank you very much, Afam. Your question is very apt, and this particular program is timely. I must say that every discerning Nigerian from 2015 shouldn't be surprised with what is happening now, because APC came into being with one objective in mind: to snatch power, not how to use it. And it was an amalgam, or rather it's an amalgam of strange bedfellows comprising of disparate groups coming together with the sole aim of capturing power at the center. And when they capture power, we are all witnesses to the fact of mismanagement of power. They don't know how to use it. And the whole thing has come up to what we have now. People are crying. Bloods of Nigerians are being spilled on a daily basis. A lot of things that we never knew could happen are happening. And the issue of retaining power is in the fore presently. And because of that, there's another infighting. Now, Nigerians have heard of cabals. Among cabals, there's a cabal A and cabal B. Cabal A comprises of people working with the president in the inner caucuses of presidential seats. Cabal B comprises of Erupa and his group of disgruntled Cabalists. And Cabal A, it does appear that there is no party, because this group of people don't have allegiance to party. They only have allegiance to party. Now, APC, it is very, very clear that Tinubu literally bought the ticket. Okay. And if you are very, very discerning, do the run-up to the APC primaries, a lot of rumors here and there. They want to stop. They wanted to stop Tinubu. They want to give it to Lawan. They want to give it to Osibajo. All these things were true. Most of them never wanted Tinubu. Now, when Tinubu hijacked the party ticket, they decided to do what? To frustrate him. And presently there is a congregation around the person of Atiku and his PDP. The same people. Now it is alleged, nobody knows, that there's a stockpile of money somewhere by Tinubu and his group to buy votes. And if you listen, some of us were in several platforms comprising of Nigerians from diverse backgrounds. And you listen, you see people talking with confidence, we are going to win, we are going to, you begin to ask yourself, This winning, is it a product of popularity contest, or is it a product of capacity or competence? In fact, there's much more to it than meets the eye. And revelations coming up show that probably they believe that poverty in Nigeria can make people to cast their vote for the wrong person if you give them money. So that was the basis. And I think the CBN, by whosoever is the puppeteer,
Yes.
You know, decided to say, no, let us mop up this excess cash. And that is the bone of contention.
Okay.
And the Cabal A is rejoicing because they control the very, very strong levers of power.
Okay.
The CBN, the army. And gentlemen, remember that not quite long ago, there were news everywhere that DSS was hunting MFL.
Yeah.
On top, we understand that the DSS and some other groups in this government are answerable to maybe Cabal B.
Okay.
Whereas CBN, army are answerable to Cabal A. So what we have in APC, as some of us rightly predicted, is an implosion, which has been kept, you know, they've been maintaining it all this while. Now the chicken has come home to roost.
Okay, let me take you. There are two issues that filtered out from your comments. Now, when you say there is a congregation of people leaning towards Atiku, now I want to get it right. You know, you are talking about APC in government.
Exactly.
APC people. Are you now saying that the APC people now are tending towards Atiku instead of their own candidate?
Remember, I told you that APC is an amalgam of different bedfellows.
Okay.
Now, their sole aim was to capture power. They came together to when they captured power, the problem became how to manage that power.
Yeah.
Now, the majority of the elements there are Fulanis. And Atiku is in Fulani. So now they are now tilting towards him. Majority of them are tilting towards him, thereby abandoning their candidate. They are not looking at party.
Okay, the ethnic.
Yes, some of them are for Tinubu, and I think those of them that are for Tinubu want to constitute another cabal, assuming he wins, God forbid.
Okay.
Because the essence of this cabalism or whatever, I don't know. The essence of this cabalization of power is to control a president that is, you know, seriously incapacitated, and then run power, control the levers of power using his name. We saw it during Yaradua. We are seeing it in this current administration, and they want it to continue to Tinubu. That's why some of them are crying blue mother. People like El-Fai, we know his story. We know he's here today, tomorrow he's here. You see, internet does not lie. Some of these things, what you say today, like what I'm saying today, it can come up in the next 20 years, assuming I change and start saying another thing. So the problem is that when you look at utterances from both sides, they are not doing it for the interest of Nigerians. And that is why you have some of them working for Atiku, some of them working for Tinubu. Okay,
perhaps this is possibly this could possibly be the reason why Atiku said, sorry, not Atiku, Bola Ahmed Tinubu said that the currency redesign and the fuel scarcity was designed to sabotage
yes.
the presidential bid.
Yes.
Perhaps this is where it is drawing from.
Exactly. Because remember, I said some people had a cache of a cache.
Yeah.
Of currency, stockpiled currency to use to buy votes. But unfortunately, what is happening now, those notes are useless. And that's why they're canvassing, extend it. If you extend it in March, they will use it to buy votes.
Okay.
So that is why there's a tussle. That is why I am very, very concerned. It's a political tussle. Tussle for power, and not tussle to serve the interest of Nigerians.
Okay. Now, do you not, just like some people have tagged it, do you agree with the expression that this is a case of a kingdom rising against kingdom. And you know what the scripture said? They cannot stand when a kingdom rises against kingdom. So what are your thoughts on that?
But this is what is happening. Remember, the Christians have been praying of late for the first time in history. The churches are targeted. People are targeted based on their religious belief. And it got to a point, clergymen were kidnapped, beheaded, their body mutilated. And the other day there was a lady, for expressing her view, she was killed, burnt alive. She was burnt alive. Rebecca.
Okay, yeah. So
she was burnt. One of the presidential candidates, an earlier tweet came out condemning the Grissom Act. And once he was threatened by his fellow Northerners, he quickly deleted it. Until now, he has not condemned anything done by the so-called bandits. So when you look at all these things, you find out that these are not friends of Nigeria. These are enemies of Nigeria. They never want power for the sake of power. They want power for the sake of impoverishing the masses and enriching themselves and their generations. That is why the Bible, Bible talks about the future. If a kingdom rises against itself, it will crumble. That is what is happening. Both PDP and APC, because APC elements are now with PDP, working for Atiku. PDP elements are now with APC. You have the Fanika Edes. You have so many of them. So they kind of, what they do, they remove one cloth and change to another. But they are same people. So God has decided to answer the prayers of Nigerians. I'm sorry I'm going spiritual. God has said to answer. That is why what is happening. They are fighting each other. And let me tell you, there is nothing like no barholes. The fight is to finish. And at the end of the day, they will cancel out each other.
Okay, now we would like you to reconcile how do you reconcile the conflicting judgment from the Federal High Court and the Supreme Court? Earlier on, the High Court ruled that CBN should not extend the timeline. Now, and much later, last weekend, the Supreme Court gave ruling in favor of the 3 APC governors that went to court and mandated the CBN to extend the timeline so that many Nigerians will be afforded the opportunity to change their money. But earlier on, President Buhari and even the CBN said that 100 days is more than enough to do the currency swap. Now, these two judgments that are before the central bank, which one are they supposed to obey? So how do we reconcile the two?
You see, this is a very interesting issue, but I want to correct an impression here. There is nothing like conflict in judgment of the Supreme Court and that of a Federal High Court.
But I thought they are still on the same issue.
Wait.
Okay.
Once the Supreme Court has... The Supreme Court is somewhere here. The Federal High Court is there.
Okay.
Once the Supreme Court has given a direction on an issue,
okay,
any other thing subsisting before them ceases to subsist.
Okay.
That is why the Supreme Court, in the case of Bafarawa against it's an election, I forgot the Bafarawa's case. That was in 2012 or thereabout.
In Sokoto State.
Yes, the Supreme Court dismissed an appeal at the Court of Appeal. So he has powers to even reach down.
Okay.
But then, some of us have issues with that approach. The approach as it concerns this currency issue. I have written an article on it. Go to my Facebook page. It was there. I wrote an article on that. Now, the issue for you to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court under Section 232 of the Constitution, the suit must be on an issue, a dispute affecting the rights, the civil rights of any of the the states.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
In the federation. Yes. It must be between the federation, not federal government.
Okay.
The federation and any of the federating units.
Okay.
When you say federating units, I mean the states. Yeah. Between the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly. Okay. Between state governments, a state in the federation and another state, or the state in the federation and the federation. Now, currency management and control is an issue that is within the exclusive powers and control of the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay.
And Central Bank of Nigeria is created by statute to manage currency. To manage currency. To decide this is legal tender, this is not legal tender. And I think the essence of giving that timeline, remember the timeline was 31st January.
Yes.
It was extended to 10th February. The essence is to say this old Naira note is no longer legal tender. Once the CBN says that, that's final. It ceases to be a legal tender. Now, these governors, what they mainly did was to, surreptitiously purport to invoke the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court by suing the federal government in lieu of the central bank. Because assuming they bring in the central bank, the Supreme Court ceases to have jurisdiction. Okay. Because the CBN as a party cannot, a suit brought against the Supreme Court as a party cannot invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Do you understand? Yeah. So for an action, for the Supreme Court to assume an action in that regard, it must be an appellate as the final appeal court. Appellate court. Okay. That it must rise from the High Court to the Court of Appeal, then to the Supreme Court. Okay. Nobody is doubting that. It can be between me and Supreme Court. Okay. It can be between me and any other. It can be between the Supreme Court and the state government. Mm-hmm. But for a state government to purport to invoke that jurisdiction, which is original, pursuant to section 232, the central bank cannot be a party.
Okay.
And it must be between those states and the federation.
And it is, in this case, it is not what it is.
Yes, and secondly, there must be a dispute. Was there a dispute? My answer is no. There was no dispute, as contemplated in that section. Okay. Now, what the Supreme Court mainly did was to douse the tension as a policy court. I know that on the 15th, the matter is coming up in 2 days' time for argument on the application, and I believe that the Supreme Court will dismiss that application.
From the 3 governors? Yes,
because I believe going by established precedent, going by stare decisis.
Okay.
Do you understand? The Supreme Court is duty bound to dismiss that because
there is no issue.
In Attorney General of Abia State against Attorney General of the Federation, 2012, the Supreme Court said the only thing that can invoke our original decision is that there must be a dispute, and that dispute must touch or affect the right of any of the federal units vis-a-vis the states and the federal government. But if there is no such dispute, or if no such dispute has been disclosed, we will decline jurisdiction.
Okay.
So what am I saying? I am saying that what played out was a political booby trap set for their justices. And I want to urge their lordships using this medium to be very wary of political gladiators and political traps clothed in judicial disputes or legal disputes. And I know they will do the needful at the right time, because the Central Bank of Nigeria has exercised its powers as guaranteed under the Central Bank Act. So if anybody who feels aggrieved goes to the Federal High Court, the Federal High Court is the court that has the original jurisdiction under section 251 251 1D. 251 1D of the Constitution that talks about currency. Yeah. It is the federal, any matter relating to currency, it is the federal high court. So anybody, including any of us, could approach the federal high court because we are affected and join the CBN. We can join the Attorney General. It is the federal high court that has original jurisdiction, and that was why it rightly assumed jurisdiction and made that the directives it handed down prior to what happened at the Supreme Court. And moreover, even at that, the order or the injunction made by the Supreme Court or purportedly made cannot bind the CBN because it was not a party. That is our worry. We can't ridicule the system. We cannot afford to do that. We have our children coming up to join us, and we must leave a system better than we made it for them. So the CBN not being a party and being the main person. When I use the word person, I'm talking law, because in law the CBN is a juristic person because it's a creation of law. Now the CBN was not joined. Having not joined the CBN, do you think you can validly make an order against CBN? The answer is no. For you to make that order and expect compliance, you must join CBN. Yeah. And if you join CBN, you'll have jurisdiction to do that. Very simple.
Okay. Perhaps it is on the basis of what you've just explained, because we had CBN say that they are not budging on the time they have given, that everything is going according to their plans. So it is possible that is the reason, because of the law creating it and acting according to the law, setting it up.
They were not made parties.
Okay. Thank you very much for this enlightenment. I guess the public is get better informed now on what is actually happening. So some people have described this as judicial rascality. You know, do you agree with the opinion based on what you have just expressed? Kind of an attempt to ridicule the CBN and then laying a booby trap for the justices of the courts, and all of looking at, it must be a deliberate thing for them to have excluded the CBN from the action. So people, everything put together, have described it as
what they would have done if they are not mischievous. Yeah. Those 3 states that constitute the plaintiff or applicant before the Supreme Court, if they are not acting out of mischief and self-centered interest, they would have joined, sought leave of the Court of Appeal and appealed against the judgment of the Federal High Court that said no extension. Maybe because of the very sensitive nature and timeline attached to it, the Court of Appeal would have dispensed with that matter within 2-3 days. They cannot approach the Supreme Court. But because they are agents of destabilization, because they are not interested in sustaining the system, they want to destroy the system. And that is why I am urging their lordships at the Supreme Court. I will not use the word rascality. No, I will not. Because the Supreme Court has been approached like a father. He says, wait. He said 10 and 15, just a matter of days. Yeah. Do you understand? So, wait. And I know that they will do the needful. These are seasoned law lords. They will do the needful at the right time. But the anger of Nigerians should be visited on this set of people that parade themselves as governors, who instead of doing the normal thing, there is a judgment, a subsisting judgment. I had not read that of the Federal High Court to know whether it was a judgment, a final judgment, or no. But I think it was a final judgment. What you should have done, even if it was a ruling, what you should have done, since you are not a party, you seek leave of the Court of Appeal, appeal against it as an interested person to the Court of Appeal. File your briefs within 2-3 days, and the court will set it down and take a decision. Either way, that is the way it is done. And if you are not satisfied with what is Court of Appeal, you can now approach the Supreme Court. Now you have the proper parties before the court. Only for you to now do what we call you lay an ambush. Yeah. You lay an ambush on the CBN, saying that hey, CBN is not an agent of the federal government. I want to correct that impression. It's a creation of the statute.
Okay.
To monitor in all part of the world, CBN has never been, central bank has never been the agent of any federal government. Every part of the world. I stand to be corrected. CBN is created independently to manage, even though the president at any point is the appointing authority of the head of that bank. It doesn't make that bank subservient to the federal government. That is the ideal thing. Now, for you, being a body you can sue, assuming without considering that is an agent, which I say is debatable. Yeah. For you to sue a government, the federal government, government of the federation, and then purport to link it as an agent is wrong. It's mischief.
Manipulative.
Yes. It's laying a very dangerous and destructive ambush on our judicial system. The proper thing for them to have done was to approach the Court of Appeal, simply appeal against that judgment that was handed down by the Federal High Court. And then they proceed, not using this kind of subterfuge that is very nauseating, annoying and provocative, very destructive of our system. We should all rise up against them. Not the Supreme Court that played what we call a stabilizing role. No, I do not. I have told you I do not agree. Well, but what they did was to douse tension. And again, they didn't give a date of 30th of 28th of February after the election. No, they said 15.
Before the election.
Yes. So when we are criticizing,
so that it stay within.
Yes. So that when you are criticizing, you be informed. The matter was brought to them. They didn't say bring this matter. They said okay, federal government, please. They know that directive to the federal government is not binding on CBN because CBN is not before them. Now instead of calling them, it's not easy to sit there and absorb some of these things. I know that on the 15th, they will rise up, go and come back and dismiss that application. That is what will happen.
It's okay, Mr. Waketi. Thank you so much. Before we, call it off, there is one or two issues. Let me bring you back to Imo State. So many things have happened or are happening, and it borders on governance issues. As a lawyer, most of these things center around enforcement of laws and making of laws. I'm talking specifically about our State House of Assembly. Now, this State House of Assembly, for some time now, suspended 3 legislators. In other words, 3 constituencies in Imo State have been suspended for over 15 months. And it is surprising that nobody is raising an eyebrow. Even the constituents of those constituencies, your group, the lawyers, we are not hearing anything from them. All the stakeholders in Imo State, the traditional institutions, the clergy, the market union, the students union, everybody appears cowed. Nobody is saying, including the human rights organizations. And beyond that, this same House of Assembly went ahead to approve the appointment of sole administrators, which in the mind of every right-thinking person is an aberration in a democracy. We are making attempts to democratize governance, and somebody somewhere is putting all the powers in the hand of one man, whom we call a sole administrator. And this same House of Assembly, a budget will be brought before them. In 24 hours, they have passed the budget without debating it and without giving Imo people the right of expressing opinion on the issues affecting them. And there are other things, so much, that in our states, I'm wondering whether they are actually human beings, because the government appears to be doing anything they like. So you as a lawyer, you as a former chairman of NBA and a human rights activist, What are your thoughts on this development in our state, especially on the issue of excluding 3 constituencies? Is it right in law? Maybe these are some of the worries and concerns, you know, we pick from the members of the society.
Anyway, you said former NBA chairman.
Yes.
You know, if it were those days when I was chairman, I don't shy away from issues and hitting them frontally. But as it is, we appear to be comfortable with what is happening. Yes, a group of persons who constitute a constituency have the inherent right constitutionally to be represented. And that right to representation cannot be taken away at the whim and caprice of anybody or person or authority. Now, if they feel aggrieved, I think they should. They approach the courts. They should.
That's the legislators, you mean, or the
constituents? Yes, the constituents. Anybody from there can approach the courts. It's a very, very, very sad development. And then, let me ask: Do you even have a House of Assembly? To the greatest, to my greatest, with the greatest respect, I don't think it has never changed. I remember when I was chairman, that was when Ashoyi was a speaker. I told them, as far as you are concerned, there is no House of Assembly, and it has not changed. A situation where the issue of constitutional amendments that we should pass 36 states houses of assembly, the issue of judicial autonomy, legislative house autonomy, local government came, and you voted against all of them. Do you vote to be a slave? Is somebody voting to have chance? And you want me to call that person a representative? The answer is no. There are errand boys that have brought together the share palliatives here and there, and they do the bidding of
the master,
he who pays the piper. So that the problem is that, thank God the election is around the corner. You kick them out. You don't talk too much. You kick them. You elect people that are credible. You elect people that have proven records of courage and service. You elect them. The legislature is the strongest fountain of democracy anywhere in the world, because you have people who are direct link to the constituents, who now stood in the gap between the government and the executive. But when you lose that bulwark, because they constitute a bulwark, when you lose it, then it's up to every man to himself. That is what we have. Thank God for the revolution that is going on today, the obedient movement. I know these people, we're talking of Cabals and B, they never, and PDP, they never saw it coming. I see God, when he wants to confuse you, he does it in such a wonderful style. Do you understand? Yeah. That you will be caught napping. So what is happening? This is a time, this election is a make or mar election. Nigerians, Imola is inclusive, should come out and vote a competent legislative house. I think it's on the 11th of March.
Yeah.
The same thing with Guba. Every other place, Guba will go, but in Imo State, it's only the House of Assembly.
Yeah, it's only House of Assembly.
Do you understand? Voting people or proving track record. Do not allow the vote to be manipulated. That's the only thing I'll tell them. Because we don't need to be talking about people that have decided to sell their conscience. They have decided to make mockery of what legislative business is all about. You don't need to talk about waste time on them. It's an aberration. What is happening is a pure aberration. And if you allow yourself to be outsmarted by the executive, am I to blame the executive? The executive played smart and captured the house.
And pocketed them.
Pocketed them. Who allowed you to be pocketed? You allowed yourself to be pocketed. So the Constitution is very clear. It's very clear. Section 4, 5, 6 of the Constitution. Section 4 establishes the legislation as an independent arm of government. Section 5 establishes the executive as an independent arm of government. Section 6 established the judiciary as an independent, and in each of them, the same Constitution says the House of Assembly of a state or the National Assembly cannot purport to make a law that will pass the jurisdiction of the court.
Wow.
And the judiciary cannot, in discharge of its functions, whittle down the powers of the executive. No. The only thing that each of them will act check and balances. That's why the concept of checks and balances came into existence. Each will be a check on the other. Because it's a separation of powers.
Yeah.
It's a contrivance. It's a concept, Montesquieu's concept. Yeah. A French philosopher. He said, it's a concept wherein the three exist, they coexist, and act as checks and balances on each other.
Independence.
Yes. So when you decide to say you are independent, like Esau did, do you blame Jacob? You should stand up. The judiciary should stand up. If the executive goes astray, you hit the executive with the judicial hammer. The House of Assembly should stand up. If the governor or the executive derails, you call him back. There are so many instruments with which you can do that. So now when you now have to abdicate your responsibility, then the choice is for the people to do the needful. Because this is an election cycle. It has come out again. Yeah. It has come around, sorry. So you do the needful by making sure that people you elect into office as people that are credible, people with proven records. Because the moment you show, especially at the legislative arm, the moment you show that you have that competence, the moment you show that ability to do your work without fear or favor, the people that will be the biggest beneficiaries are the masses.
Here we come to the end of the program. Barrister Waketi, thank you for coming. Thank you for your contributions. Viewers, this is the much we can take from this program. Please continue to stick around with our program for subsequent editions. Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Afam Echi. Thank you.